Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 3rd of June. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
All good here, Derek. How's yourself? Good weekend?
It was good, actually. Yeah, just chilled out, to be honest. Never really done much. Watched the Champions League final on Saturday night, and just potted about pretty much, I've got to say. What about you?
Much the same. After a week, we had a slightly more chilled weekend. It had been a hectic old first week of the summer between transfers, comings and goings, and also the James Bisgrove news towards the end of the week as well. It turned into a slightly busier one than expected. So I not very much this weekend at all, thankfully.
Yeah, still plenty of Rangers news to get stuck into. Before we do that, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. They've got that, they're opening up that showroom over in Dunfermline, and they're launching a VIP Vegas-themed launch weekend from June 14th to 16th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can win a number of prizes, including 10% off services, free boiler services, and a chance to win an even bigger prize. If you land on zero, you get entered into a grand draw for a 4-night stay at Trump Tower, no less, in Vegas, with a helicopter tour thrown in. The all-important link is in the description below, folks. Do go and click that if you are planning to go on that weekend. Right, where shall we start? We'll start with some transfer news. You broke over the weekend, Chris, on a player that we've already seen in a Rangers jersey, and that is Oscar Cortez. Lawns are looking to recoup what they paid Millenarios for his services last summer, which is around £4 million, and they're looking to do business at that amount. And of course, he has been injured for much of his loan spell at Ibrox. I know a lot of supporters were keen on perhaps extending that loan and then making it an assessment on whether to make the move permanent next season at some point. But this news, Chris, can you see Rangers doing business this summer, bringing him in a permanent deal?
He's definitely a player that Rangers would like to bring in. I think the manager spoke about him towards the end of the season. I can't remember ahead of which game we did speak about it in one of the pressers. So he is someone that the club have tracked for a long time before he initially came to Ibrox. He's someone that I think they would be pleased if they could get a deal done to bring him back in. I know Josh has got a big piece on Cortes coming on the site over the next couple of days. I think it's quite a strange one in many regards. This, if Rangers had not signed him in January and they are then linked with him, and you see his potential, you look into his background, and you then say they're going to go and spend £4 million on him, I think a lot of people would say that's a good bit of business. We're excited about that. Let's go and make it happen. It's the fact that we've had a wee glimpse at him and we've seen him. People are there like, oh no, we can't be spending £4 million on him. I do get the fact that he's had a muscle injury. That is a negative coming off the back of the season that we've just had in terms of injuries, and the last couple of seasons. That has to be a concern, as Neil says there. I think that has to be Rangers have to be wary about that. The positive in that regard is they've had them in the building for the last 6 months. They have put Oscar through that rehab process. He's still at the training ground, or has been at the training ground, finishing off that process. So the Rangers have been in control, if you like, of that rehab. They should know exactly where he is. They should know how severe it is. They should know the success of the operation that he had. So if they then decide that he's worth round about £4 million and they go and make that deal happen, they have all the information there. If it then goes badly, there's then questions to be asked. But I think Rangers have been able to do as much preparation work, if you like, for this deal as possible. That doesn't mean to say that he's a steal at £4 million. Not £4 million out of this Rangers budget is going to be a lot. It's going to be a significant chunk of it. Just because Longs would like 4, that doesn't mean to say that they get 4. No, I think people have to remember every deal is a negotiation. Every party tries to get the best set of circumstances for them out of every transaction. But for me, I think he is worth think he's worth another deal. I think he's worth coming in. I was impressed with him. I know we only saw him 6 or 7 times until that night down at Rugby Park. Unfortunately, he scored a really good goal against Hearts. I think he looks direct. He's clearly got a bit of pace about him. He clearly carries a threat. So for me, he's someone I would like to see. I would like to see brought back to the club. It's whether Rangers wish to part with that fee for him or not.
Yes, he was speaking in an interview recently back in his homeland. This is what he said: "I'm doing well now after everything that has happened. There were obviously difficult times, but I think that with the help of all the people I have around me, they helped me a lot, and they have helped me to be calm in my head as well. I arrived and started to do things very well, and unfortunately the injury came and I had to stop for 3 months, but I thank God I'm already in the recovery process. Me and my agents are keeping tabs on the negotiations that are taking place. We will see what happens. I'm talking to my agents and also to Lons and Rangers. Let's see what happens. I am waiting." So that is what he had to say in a recent interview. I would be keen on another loan with an option to buy if Rangers can work that out. But there's an interesting point coming in from Kenneth, and it's quite right. He says that why sign Sima? He's been injured every year for the last 3 seasons. He's another one that I want to see Rangers strike a deal with Brighton and bring him in permanently. But he too has had his injury frustrations recently. So I get Kenneth's point with regards to that. We know that we've been burned so many times with players that have been injured for such a long period of time at Rangers. So, but Cortez, like you, Chris, I've seen enough in that sort of short stint of appearances that we saw him. I've seen enough that I want to see more of him. He's a player that excites. He's a player that why we pay money to go and watch Rangers. So, and I think it's obviously areas of the pitch that Rangers need to strengthen, the sort of wide areas. So, hopefully they can come to some agreement with Lons. A bit surprised why it never worked out for him there. I know when he initially signed for Rangers, we spoke to a French journalist, also a Lons supporter, and he says he was quite surprised he never got more of an opportunity there, but such is life. Right, 5 players have headed out the door then upon the expiry of their contracts. They left over the weekend, namely John McLaughlin, Kemar Roofe, John Lundstrom, Ryan Jack, and Borna Barisic. No real surprise to see all 5 departing the club. Of all the out-of-contract players, Leon Balogun signed that extension. That was confirmed over the weekend as well, which I think is a good move for all concerned. I think he's a good player to have around the building, and whenever he's called upon, he never lets Rangers down. What do you make of the 5 going, Chris? No real surprise?
No, not at all. I think it's been on the cards for a while. Some were more obvious than others. I think of John McLaughlin was an obvious one. Kemar Roofe was an obvious one. Ryan Jack, unfortunately, I think was an obvious one. I think out of all of them, Ryan is perhaps the hardest one, if you like, for the fans to not accept, but to see go. Because on his day, and you think back to the Gerrard era, he has put in some really, really good performances for Rangers. If he was fit, for me, he starts in that Rangers midfield. Even today, it's just that availability question, just not being available for a high enough percentage of the games once again this season. And unfortunately, I think that was always going to end with his Rangers career coming to an end. But I think he's been a really, really excellent player for Rangers on his day. I know there's been a lot of comment and a lot of abuse, if you like, thrown at several players over the course of the season. People clearly upset and angry by how this campaign has unfolded, and I do get that, and you have to understand it, because the season didn't end the way that we wanted thought it could do. But overall, these guys have been very good players for Rangers, certainly in terms of Barisic, in terms of what they paid for him, what they've got out of him. Ryan Jack, obviously, Kemar Roofe on his day, a brilliant striker at this level. So I think and then you also look at John Lundstrom scoring one of the best goals, not in terms of quality, but in terms of what it meant. Everyone will have their own memories of that night at Ibrox. So I think it's easy in the heat of the moment, after cup final defeats or Old Firm defeats or bad nights at Dingwall and that type of thing. It's easy for the fans to throw abuse and really pile into these players. But I would hope a huge percentage of them would just wish these guys well, because I think that they have been excellent servants for the club. Barisic, I know someone again who's took a lot of criticism. You saw his emotion when he left Ibrox for the last time a couple of weeks ago. They have underachieved. They've not won as much as they should have won. This should have been a far more successful era for Rangers. It's not been. I don't think it's through a lack of effort, certainly not individually, but I think there's a number of these guys, all of them, they've come in, they've played their part, they've tried their best, and I certainly wish them well for whatever holds next in their careers. Would really like to see all of them go on, play somewhere, enjoy good times going forward. But I think that it was the right time for their Rangers careers to come to an end. But I don't think it has to end on a real sour note and a bit of abuse. And I think it'd be wrong for the fans to have that as the lasting memories of players who have been very, very good for the club over the respective times.
Yep. Both Borna and Lundstrom heading over to Turkey to play for Trabzonspor, which will be interesting. Both getting well paid over there. They'll be coming up against Jose Mourinho, of course, who joined Fenerbahce as coach. And it looks like I've seen news over the weekend as well about the future of Ryan Kent. He's endured a miserable time over there at Fenerbahce. It looks like he may be getting released from his contract. I've seen some saying bring him home. I think that ship has sailed. I think that every transfer window we're going to be speaking about Ryan Kent, I'd imagine, from here on in. But of the other players that have departed, like said Jack Roof, and I've got to say, I felt a bit sorry for John McLaughlin over the weekend. All the other 4 outfield players got little montages on the Rangers Twitter account, but John never had his little montage, so maybe we should make one up. The Rangers review of his time and goal at Rangers. But of the other 3, I think looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised to see John McLaughlin head back down south at one of the clubs, perhaps in the English League One. He could even be a sub-goalie at English Championship level, perhaps, or even English League Two. Likes Kamar Roof and Ryan Jack. Where do you see them ending up, Chris?
No doubt playing 45 games a season for someone, not picking up an injury. Ryan Jack being that team's player of the year and Kamaru scoring 20 goals for someone, that would sum up Rangers' fortunes in injury terms over the last couple of seasons. Interesting to see where Ryan Jack goes. Steve Clarke spoke about him after announcing the Scotland squad. He's clearly still a player that Clarke likes. It was a real shame that Ryan missed out on the last championships. Again, injury just biting at the completely wrong time for him. For me, he still deserves a place in that Scotland squad as long as he's playing, as long as he's fit.
Do you think he'll make it in this squad, Chris?
That's going to be an interesting one, because a couple have to drop out. So you'd imagine a goalkeeper drops out, and it's then down to another.
You've lost Dykes already, haven't you?
If you've lost Dykes, I think he has to be replaced. I don't think there's enough firepower within that squad, so I'd imagine Dykes would be replaced. The thing that ticks a box for Ryan Jack, he's different to the other midfielders in that squad. The likes of Gilmer or Christie, McTominay to an extent, McGinn more forward thinking, certainly in Scotland terms. Ryan Jack can do a very specific job for Steve Clarke's side in that area of the pitch. It's just whether is he fit enough. I know Clarke mentioned that he's been fit for a couple of weeks. He may have been cleared physically fit, but that's a whole different ballgame from being match fit and being good to go and be able to then go and perform at a higher level. So I think that lack of game time may well cost him. And so I think it would be a shame if he misses out on a second championships, because you look at what he's achieved in his career, won medals at Rangers. It's a big box to tick in terms of going and being an international player at a major final. So it would be a shame if he missed out. But I think his name is certainly one that will be under consideration after these two friendly games, when Steve Clarke has to put in his final squad. If Jack doesn't get a whole host of minutes in these two, I think it'd be hard to see him getting one of those places on the plane.
Yeah. And as I touched on, folks, Leon Balogun has signed that extension. He said, I'm delighted Continue. I'm very, very happy and privileged to be able to extend my contract at a club like Rangers. I've said in the past, I wish I could have been here sooner in my career because it fuels a fire to succeed all the time. I want to win more trophies here and win more titles. As a player, you want to make sure you are part of the history of this club because there are not many places in the world where there is a greater honour or a greater privilege. Clement, speaking about it, says he's delighted Leon has signed a contract extension with the club to remain as a crucial part of our squad next season. In my time here so far, I've witnessed firsthand the impact he has not only on the pitch, but off the pitch too, with his valuable experience. He is a talented defender who brings a lot of qualities to the group, and I look forward to continuing to work with him next season. I think we touched on this last week when the news broke, Chris. I'm quite happy. I'm quite comfortable with Leon signing that year's extension. He's not going to be first choice defender, but you need someone with an experienced head around there. You are losing, but just touched on 3 seasoned campaigners, and he is one that he's still contributing. I know he has had his injury problems as well, but I'm quite happy with him being part of the squad next season.
Have seen some comments, people saying, can't believe he's getting a new contract. I thought this was meant to be a clear out. And anyone who's in that particular camp, I think they are not looking at the bigger picture. If you have someone of Balogun's experience, of Balogun's understanding of Rangers and of Scottish football, if you have someone like that who's willing to extend his contract, he's not on massive money. He's not going to demand to play every single week. He's not going to rock the boat. He's going to be a good, he's not going to be a disruptive influence round about the place. If you have someone like that, which they do, it makes perfect sense to hold on to him for another 12 months. Just because he signed the contract does not mean he's going to be the first name on the team sheet come the Champions League qualifier or come the first game in the new Premiership campaign. Rangers need experience in that squad. We've spoke about it the last couple of weeks. We'll speak about it every day over the course of this window. There will be a big turnaround in this squad. That doesn't mean to say that everyone leaves and everyone comes back in. That's not sustainable financially, not sustainable in football terms. So if you've got someone like Balogun who is willing to play every so often, be a positive influence for younger players, be a positive influence for players that are coming into the club and helping them understand the dressing room, understand the city, understand the club and the game here. Rangers, as you say, Derek, they've lost a lot of experience. Ryan Jack would have filled that kind of role. McLaughlin could have done. Kamar Roof could have done. Lundstrom could have done. Same as 12 months ago when we lost Scott Arfield and lost Alan McGregor. You need people within the group that just know what it's all about. Now, that doesn't guarantee success. Doesn't mean that you're then going to kick on and go to huge levels. But if you're rebuilding a squad and you're trying to bring in a number of new players and go in a different direction in terms of perhaps some of the profiles, you need older heads in that squad. And I think Balogun, he will just as important a role off the pitch as he will do on the pitch. We will still see more movement in that defensive area. We know Cordoba was one that the club were keen on. That also fell through last Wednesday, I think it was. We had that story saying that deal was off. So there will be other movement in that centre half area. Leon King looks like someone who has to move on. Ben Davies, again, someone that looks like he has to move on. Conor Goldson will be a big story one way or the other this summer. Clement will go and sign another centre half. Leon Balogun will not be the first choice in that area, but for me, it makes perfect sense just to give him another contract.
Yes, and let's get to something. Another defender that has been linked to Rangers, we've seen in the last few days, if not a week. Thomas Galdames, the Chile defender, plays for Godoy Cruz over in Argentina. Now he was playing. He was chosen for the Chile's international team for a friendly against Paraguay. Also attended a Chilean Premier League match between his former club Union Espanola and Deportes Iquique. Hopefully that's how you pronounce that. Any Deportes Iquique fans that are tuning in, then I do apologise if I've just butchered that name. Anyway, he was interviewed after the game. I asked about Rangers' interest in him. He says, I have a contract in Godoy Cruz until December, and their idea and mine is that they sell me now. My agent agent is working on that. There are not issues that concern me, and I can only focus on the games. I know that going to Europe and playing in a competitive league, I would improve more than I would in South America. My career has been very progressive, particularly recently. Getting called up for the national team is proof of that. I hope something happens in June or July. So that's one to keep an eye on. Rangers and a club in Belgium have been linked with him. I'm not entirely sure him saying moving to Europe, moving to Scotland would be necessarily better than playing in Argentina, but I know that Rangers is a bigger club than the club he's currently playing at, Chris. It's I guess one to keep an eye on. There have been a number of South Americans that have been linked with Rangers. He's certainly one, 25 years of age, just breaking into the Chile international setup as well. It looks at seen that little montage of him online as well. Loves a tackle. I certainly wouldn't be. I wouldn't mind if he was to pitch up at Ibrox. There's another one I think that's been linked to Penarol. Was it Garcia? I think his name is, but Damien Garcia is another one. But of course, there's been a host of names linked with Rangers already, and we expect that to remain so. We expect that even more names to be linked this week as well. But Galdames, what's your feeling on that one?
I think I said at the start of this transfer window, or even before it started, that Rangers will be linked with 100 names. I think we're probably more than halfway there already with the number of tweets and social media posts and comments that we've had on the video. Yeah. A lot of names doing the rounds. I think it's clear clear that Rangers do need reinforcements across the entire squad. They certainly need reinforcements at the back. The Ridvan situation, definitely one to keep an eye on because obviously Hefty has come in to that left back area already. In effect, that's a straight swap for Borna Barisic. I wouldn't be surprised if Ridvan moves on, if Rangers see him as someone that they can cash in on and they can go and use that fee and use those wages in a different way. So I think there will be another left back coming in. As we just spoke about there definitely will be centre-back reinforcements. That's an area of the pitch that Rangers really need to get right. And for me, you're looking at the whole spine of the side. We've had the Jack Butland conversation before. We will have again, whether he stays, whether he goes, that spine starting at goalkeeper, centre-half, middle of the pitch, a new number 9. Rangers have to get that spine correct. And then round about that, so much work to be done. We spoke about Cortes earlier on. Abdallah Sima falls into that category as well. Now, what do Brighton do? Do they go and try and test the market? Do they go and see what they can get? Do they just say, well, you like it at Rangers, you're happy at Rangers, you can just go back there? So there's a lot of moving parts at present. There's a lot of work for Clement and Niels Coppin to do. And Rangers, again, as we've mentioned before, they have to get this transfer window right. I still reckon it'll be definitely double digits. I'd imagine around about a dozen out and a dozen in. That would give the squad a very much new look. It would give it a fresher feel. I think that's what's required. And it's not just a case of, well, let the contract guys move on, we'll replace them, and that's it. There's a lot of work needs done in terms of other areas. A lot of players still need moved on. I had a piece on the site last week going through the squad and what their chances are of a place in it next year. Without trying too hard, you easily get over 30 players, and that's not bringing in some of the younger players that have been on the fringes about it. So it's a big squad. It does need trimmed. There's a lot of wages tied up in that group. Also, the out of contract guys moving on has saved a lot. That's money for the managers to go and play with. But you're still looking at likes of Ridvan as an asset, Butland obviously as an asset. You've then got likes of Scott Wright. You've got Sam Lammers, you've got Yanis Hadji, the two guys coming back off loan. Josh had the story last week saying that Lammers will move on, so there's potentially money coming in there. There's then wages that can be used in a different way. So there's going to be, as we keep saying, there's going to be a number of names linked. Rangers won't sign every one of them because it doesn't make any sense to sign every one of them. But I think it's good that they are looking in different areas, that they're trying to build the squad in a different feel, with a different look, looking at players with more encouraging profiles.
Another player that's been linked, a few comments coming in, you've seen over the weekend, and in the winter transfer window, Ben Johnson of West Ham. Looks like, his contract is up. Rangers and Leeds United credited with an interest in him. So, they are believed to be monitoring the situation right back, which, of course, as you mentioned, Connor Goldson. There's also a big decision to be made on James Tavernier this summer as well. Dujon Sterling can play out there, and another one got good profile. Wouldn't mind him if he was to pitch up at Ibrox. Let's get to a few of the points that are coming in. This is an interesting one from Stephen. He says, could they not move Jeffy in forward in front of Ridvan? I would direct you to a great piece that Joshua wrote on the website over the weekend on Jeffy. Done a scout report on him. It was also on a video on YouTube if you prefer consuming your Rangers review content via YouTube. Then we did a little video on it as well, what we can expect from JFD. He'll be coming, he'll be looking to play, but he is a very forward, a very Brazilian wing back, if you like. So I'm not too sure if that is something that could happen next season, but I'm excited to see Jeffy in a Rangers jersey. This point from Francis, I'll address because I have seen him in action. She says, what about Jensen Weir for a loan? Maybe he's a pretty good player. Plus, he's got a good breeding, seeing as his dad used to play for us. He's been on loan at English League One clubs, most recently at Port Vale. They played Bolton last season, never really pulled up any trees. I've seen him also in action for the likes of Morecambe, and he's had a loan spell at Blackpool as well. I don't think he's good enough at this stage, Francis. He was very highly rated when he was coming through at Wigan. That's what resulted in Brighton signing him. But he has been shipped out in a few loans at lower league clubs. Haven't been overly impressed, I've got to say, with Jensen Weir, that he deserves a shot at Rangers, I've got to say, despite his father being Davy Weir. Ross Nielsen with a point here says, any news of any potential interest in our players? Butland, Sterling, Catmull, Lammers, Dessers. Well, we touched on Lammers. Butland, I think I am fully expecting a team, whether it's Nottingham Forest or any other club, to make an offer for him over the course of the summer. Sterling, there's been nothing on that. If anything, I think Rangers should be looking at tying him down on even a more lucrative deal than he's currently on, just to sort of stave away any potential interest in Dujon Sterling. He's been superb for Rangers last season. Todd Cantwell, I know he splits opinion. Some would like to see Rangers cash in and get rid of him. I know Stevie said last week, I asked him how much would it take, do you think, for Rangers to do business? I think he said about £1.5 to £2 million. I would be expecting upwards of 3+ for Todd Cantwell, I've got to admit. For Cyril Dessers, again, I've said it, happy with him contributing. His numbers, goals per games ratio is pretty good, but 22 goals last season. But we all know his frailties and his limitations, and Rangers need better up top. So of them all, I mean, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, of the 5, I think I'd be more gutted if Dujon Sterling was to leave. I get Jack Butland has been superb as well. But of the 5, I think realistically, Chris, Sterling would be most likely the one to stay.
I think when it comes to Dujon Sterling, it's no news is good news as far as Rangers fans are concerned. If there are no rumours about him, I think that's a good thing, because he's going to be an integral part of this squad. As you mentioned, Derek, I'd be interested to know what he's on financially. If Rangers would like to perhaps reward him for his first season and tie him down on a longer term deal. Butland, we're going to talk about Butland so much over these next few months. There will be interest, and it's just how serious that interest is. What do Rangers have in mind as the magic number? There will be an envelope somewhere that's got a number inside it. If someone meets it, I think Jack Butland then moves on, and I'd be surprised if that number isn't met. Lammers, there's a couple of teams in Holland and another couple of teams in Europe that do fancy him. They have been impressed by his exploits over the second half of the season, thankfully. He has gone from someone that Rangers looked to be heading a huge loss on, I think they should make their money back. If they can make a wee bit on it, that'd be great. If they can make £1 million profit, it would be the best thing that he's ever done for the club, because there wasn't really a lot else there. Cantwell and Dessers are interesting ones. Dessers, if you just look at the numbers, he is an asset. If you look at his performances, people will have their own opinions on him. Wouldn't be completely surprised if he moves on. There has to be, I think, investment in that forward area. Whether he's here or not, you're looking for at least one number 9 to come in. A lot also depends on Danilo in terms of how he is fitness wise as well. And Cantwell, if he stays or if he goes, I'm getting nonplussed about it, to be honest. I think that number 10 role, Rangers need better. I think they need, again, it's an area for me that needs an upgrade. If he leaves, it's probably back down south, and you're then looking around about the £2-3 million free for it. I think overall it's an area that if Clement is going to stick with this system and stick with that number 10 role, I would like to see definitely another option in there, and someone that's a bit more reliable.
Yeah. That's Lammers. I think Rangers are looking to do business. I want them to make a real considerable profit on Sam Lammers, given what he's done over there in the Eredivisie. And a bidding war will do nicely as well. Just this point before we wrap up, Stephen brought it up a wee while ago, just on the players that have departed. He says 90k odds in wages that what we're going to be doing with that free transfer bonanza, or stick some serious cash on a scoring 9. Well, cash will be spent on a scoring 9, Stephen. Let's hope he does score next season. But is it a considerable amount of wages that have been freed up? Chris, we just touched on Dujon Sterling. I would like to see some of that being spent on giving him a more rewarding deal. But if you have to choose, it's a big conundrum. Rangers will have to splash the cash, I'd imagine, to bring in a forward. But the wages that have been freed up as well, it just gives, I guess, Philip Clement and Niels Coppin more room to play with in terms of the calibre of player they're looking to bring in.
As you say, it's going to be such an interesting summer window, and we can actually just break some news. Oscar Cortes has just signed for Rangers.
Wow, there you go.
We may as well. We can do our Rangers reaction video while we're on. It saves us having to come back on later on. So just go behind the paywall right now. And here's a video for you for the members. So I'll just go through that announcement for the club. Rangers are today delighted to announce Oscar Cortes has signed a 1-year loan deal from French side RC Lens with an obligation to buy in the summer of 2025. The 20-year-old winger will then put pen to paper on a 4-year contract at Ajax through to 29. So there you are. Speaking upon agreeing the deal, Cortes said, "I am delighted to be able to stay at Rangers. It was an honour and privilege for me to join the club in January, and I was enjoying my football under the manager and playing alongside my teammates. Sadly, the injury ended my season early, but I've been working hard and I'm excited to help the team and play in front of the wonderful fans again soon." So Oscar Cortes is your second Rangers signing of the summer.
There you go. The 1-year loan deal. So just as we were discussing there, we would prefer that the loan deal than with the obligation to buy. So pretty much that the Mohamed Diamande situation, Rangers will pay what will be around £4 million next summer. So there you go. Breaking news on the show this morning, and going with the comments that are coming in. Pretty much everyone is quite happy with that. So that he will be the second confirmed arrival in the club after Jeffy. So Oscar Cortes will be part of the squad next season. Bill says great news and the right way to do it. Rangers keeping their cards pretty close to their chest with regards to transfers, but this one came out the blue, and then you go live on the show. So interesting stuff, and hopefully he can steer clear of injury next season. Chris, I think it really hampered Rangers when he picked up that injury at Rugby Park, didn't it? I mean, the omission of both, of him, Ridvan being out, Abdallah Sima, all around about the same time, really affected Rangers in the title push, didn't it?
I did, because I think, again, as I mentioned before, this was a squad assembled in Michael Beale's image, a squad assembled without natural width and natural pace. You then have Philippe Clement coming in, who likes to play with players who have natural width and natural pace, and he just didn't have those options, didn't have the quality of player in those areas. Cortes, I think, was a big signing for Rangers in January, because it looked to address a real weakness within the squad. Around about the same time that Seaman was also lost from the squad. As I mentioned earlier on when we were speaking about him, I think he showed up. I think he showed up well. I think there's a lot to like about him. So no, pleased that deal has been done. I think he will be a big asset for the club going forward.
Yeah, just one or two comments before we wrap up. There's an interesting one. Well, James says, "Great news, Derek, Chris. Please stay on the chat so we can get another signing in. We may be waiting a while." Scott D with a point says, "Any concern about throwing transfer fees down the road a bit?" I get his point. It's something that, of course, Rangers will need to pay next summer. You just hope that the finances will be in order by the time we get to next season. And of course, it's huge, the start of this coming season, Chris. 2 big Champions League qualifiers to negotiate, and the potential prize money that will open up if Rangers get there. I think that is essential, that Rangers negotiate those 2 games and get the finances in.
Just to address Scott's point, it's not a concern. I think we are seeing this more in the game, these loans with options or obligations to obligations to buy. So for me, it's not a concern. I think it's prudent from Rangers from a financial terms. They don't have a huge pot of money that they can just go and splurge. They have to do things well. They have to do things smartly. I think the likes of a Diomande deal, and now the Cortes one, I think that's a smart way for Rangers to do their business. So I wouldn't see it as a negative, if you like. I wouldn't see it as a concern. It's just Rangers trying to do as much business within their budget and within their resources that they do have.
Yeah. Right, folks, we'll wrap up there. Big thanks to each and every one of you for tuning into the show as ever. Big thanks to Chris as well. The big news, of course, Oscar Cortez is a Rangers player, and a few saying that what's the deal? It's a loan with an obligation to buy for all those that are asking. So it's pretty much a Mohamed Diamandi deal. Right. We will be back. We might have a Q&A show for those of you that are Rangers Review Extra subscribers a little later on. But if we don't speak to you then enjoy your Monday, and we'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye for now.